Hey, what's up, folks? Welcome to another edition of the Winning Drive here on Texas Football, and it feels a little bit different because it is game week, ladies and gentlemen. I am pleased to be joined by the young prodigy, my man CJ Vogel, also joined by the coach, former high school football coach at Vernon, Capel, Brownwood, Belton, Rotan, also played college football at Abilene Christian, coach there in multiple stints, and on the staff at the University of Texas for multiple head coaches. It is Coach Bob Shipley. What's going on, Coach? How you doing?
Game week, babe. Everything's going on this week.
You're damn right. See, even coach is pumped up. How can you not be pumped up, CJ? You are down there on the 40 acres. How you feeling today? Game week. How's it feel? Different buzz down there?
Yeah, definitely. It was good being back around campus. You saw the students were back this week for the first day of classes today. I bumped into a couple Longhorns, maybe looking for their class, maybe still getting accumulated to campus, walking around. Not as hot today. I know I'm hearing some thunder rolling around right now. So they're excited for it. You know, we heard from a few players this afternoon as well. Sarkisian certainly shared a level of enthusiasm you'll only see on the opening week kickoff week. But, man, I'm excited. Y'all should be excited. Fans should be excited. College football in full swing again. That's a good time.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And, of course, all things Texas football will be discussed here at On Texas Football. And, of course, you can go to ontexasfootball.com. We'll hear from actually Coach Steve Sarkisian, hear his opening statement, and get into some of the player availabilities and also what Sark said at his opening game press conference. We'll get into that a little bit. Also, of course, we're discussing Colorado State. We'll dive into that matchup, preview the Colorado State Rams, let you know exactly how we believe this matchup is going to go down. We'll get into some of the game planning, some of the X's and O's. We'll pick Coach's brain about his thoughts about what coaches expect to see in game one, what are the expectations, all of it. But, of course, your questions, comments are top of mind. That is the top priority of the show. We'll address as many questions and comments as we can throughout the show, so throw them out there. Super chats jump to the front of the line. They can interrupt the show at any time. That's the way it goes. All right, let's start with some of the things that Sark says. As a matter of fact, we could start with the Sark opening press conference, his opening statement, I should say, at his media availability today. My man Matthew has that already dialed up and ready to go. So let's start out hearing from Sark, the head coach, and then we'll dive into some of the other things that were said. So, man, CJ was down there on the 40 acres. So let's get that. Let's start with Steve Sarkisian and his opening statement, and then we'll dive into some of the other topics of the day.
What an exciting time. Anytime you're kicking off the football season, you can kind of feel the excitement in the air. You know, we had the Gone to Texas event last night with President Hartzell right there at the tower, and over 9,000 incoming freshmen there, and I think the largest incoming freshman class or something. So it's really cool. You know, the fact that season tickets are sold out again. Like I said, the buzz on campus. I love game days, even when we first started the hotel, but I love the fact of like walking down Bevo Boulevard and seeing everybody there and seeing the parents of our players, the excitement they have in their eyes all the way through pregame. That stuff is super cool. I know there's a lot of really cool things that are happening this season. Obviously, the 100th year anniversary of DKR, which is a tremendous honor to be the head coach to play in the 100th season here. When you think about all the great teams and the great players and the great coaches and the moments that have occurred in the stadium, we have an opportunity Saturday to honor our entire athletic department for the Directors Cup. We have an opportunity to honor all the national championship champions this season. And then we also have an opportunity to honor all the Olympians from Paris this past summer. So a lot of cool things happening Saturday. But the coolest thing is we get to play football again. And we're excited for it. We've got a very tough opponent. Coach Norvell has done a really good job of building that program back up at Colorado State. They were, I know they're 5-7 last year, but there was a lot of close games that could have went either way. They've got a very explosive offense that likes to throw the ball around, a dynamic receiver in Torrey Horton, as well as him being a kick returner, a veteran offensive line with a couple of grad transfers, a very veteran defense with two really good safeties, all conference safeties that have played a lot of football, and a very intricate special teams unit. Very well coached team. They tax you mentally as well as tax you physically. And this is going to take a great week of preparation from our players, not only physically but mentally, because they're going to get challenged in all three phases.
All right, that's Coach Steve Sarkisian's opening statement from his Monday press conference. Thank you very much for that, Matthew. Yeah, I mean, Sark, first of all, Sark loves the pageantry. He's talked about a tradition of college football, so he's as pumped as anybody out there. But also talked about this Colorado State team, Coach, and some of the challenges that they're going to present to this Texas squad, and went over, some of the things that this Colorado State team potentially last season. I mean, a couple of, I think 3 games where they had some late game execution errors. They had 3 losses by a combined 13 points. One of those was to Colorado in double overtime, a 2-point loss to UNLV. I mean, they were on the verge of being a team at least that's bowl eligible. They expect to be a bowl eligible team this year, expect to make some improvements. And, Sark saying this is going to be a really good test for his young Texas football team.
You throwing that to me?
I was throwing it to you, but it's all right.
Okay,
hey,
no,
that's all right. My bad.
It was sure. I first want to jump out there every time, but
whatever you want to do, Coach.
I don't mind jumping. I don't mind. Yeah, I think Norvell. I just remember him for what seemed like decades on the sideline at OU. He was at OU for so long, and then on the staff with Charlie Strong at Texas, and then making his head coaching debut. I'm assuming it's his debut at Colorado State. The guy's won a lot of football games as an assistant coach in his career and as a top assistant. And so, I think Sark is trying to just keep it real. You don't want to – you want to respect every opponent. I don't think anybody that knows much about both teams think it's going to be a real close game. But I tell you what, I've been on that sidelines when Maryland rolled into town, and we didn't think they were going to be very good. 2017, and they kicked us, and then so we went up there in 2018 to return the favor, and we got kicked again. So you never know. Now, obviously, we're light years ahead in the program from where we were in 17 and 18, but you can't take any opponent for granted. We all understand that, right? I mean, it's especially nowadays as teams can kind of reload in ways that they couldn't before, with the portal. So, and sometimes you don't know for sure how good they're going to be until they roll out August 31st.
Yeah, I'm glad Sarkisian, kind of mentioned how tough of an opponent, Colorado State will be. On paper, maybe you might not agree, but for the head coach to have that mentality, as Coach you were mentioning, it does trickle down to the players. And talking to Gunnar Helm a little bit today, he talked about, that record of 5-7 could be a bit misleading, right? There were a number of games a year ago in which they probably should have won some games coming down close to the stretch. They played a very physical style of brand on the defensive side of the ball. They got talent there as well. And of course, when it comes down to it, maybe some of those coin flips go a different direction if those games are played again. And of course, learning from that experience from a year ago. Texas has certainly learned from losing close games under Sarkisian in the past as well, carrying that over to 2024. We'll see what kind of threat that they could pose, but Texas certainly isn't taking them lightly right now. And the vibe that I got from talking to a few guys this morning, they're not looking ahead to Michigan either. They're ready to go out there, take care of game 1 at home against Colorado State, and then moving on after that, but making sure that they leave home with the victory.
Yeah, no, I said the games that I watched, it was some late game execution, situational football that really hurt them down the stretch against Colorado, against Hawaii, UNLV. Or this could have been a team that was a 6 or 7 win team potentially last year, ended up being a 5-win team. So they expect to be much improved, and part of that is their passing game. That's what they lead with, and it's interesting. You would think that a team that Colorado State is a pass first team, that you would try to have more balance in the offense, but they won't have balance and really don't strive for it. They were 125th in rushing. If you look at it overall in rushing yards and rushing yards per game, around 120th in yards per carry. They're not going to be able to run the ball on Texas. I don't believe. I'd be surprised or shocked if that was the case. They're going to come out trying to throw the football. You know what they're going to do. That's their bread and butter. That's their identity. And that's why it's an interesting test for Texas. Last season, Texas struggled a bit with teams in pass-first situations when they were trying to throw the football. And that will be, I think, to me, the matchup to watch. Also, Texas pass rush, which has become now a big topic of conversation. They've upgraded at the edge defenders. So they do have some natural pass rushers, but the kind of Kim Kardashian, Nicki Minaj, Serena Williams size, Cardi B size, Megan Thee Stallion size butt is one of the few things that Colorado State is considered elite at, actually, is pass protection. Last year, they were one of the best pass protection units in the country, guys. They only allowed, 14 sacks last season. And I think maybe 11 teams allowed fewer sacks than Colorado State. Now, part of that is the actual the system. They get rid of the football really quickly. The ball is out quickly, so the pass rush doesn't have time to get there. But I'm not going to go through it again. But that dynamic and that, I think, that matchup between Texas' upgraded pass rush and their pass protection going to be huge in a game where Colorado State's going to be throwing the football mostly, and they're going to be a pass first team.
Yeah, I actually was talking to a few folks, around the Texas program earlier today, Rod. They want it to be very hot on Saturday. I know Texas fans are sitting around thinking, oh, God, I don't. I got to sit out there at 2:30, the peak of the day, all the way throughout the rest of the afternoon in 100-degree heat. Man, I did that against Rice. I did that against Wyoming. I mean, that's not fun. Alabama at that time 2 years ago was a disaster as well. Texas is hoping for it. And, of course, you start to wonder why. Well, depth is a big-time strength for this team. We heard Sarkisian speak about that earlier today in his press conference. But, two, Colorado State's been up there practicing in, the mid to low 80s, and altitude, of course. I know that's a big part of it. But it's not 100 degrees, and it won't be 100 degrees as well. So if that offensive fire plan that Colorado State's hoping to bring to the game of throwing the ball out, trying to stay up with the Texas offense and kind of go into a shootout. Come that third and fourth quarter, do you have the juice? Do you have the horses that can rotate in and out with the Texas defense and maintain a level of scoring that keeps that game tight? That's the big question mark right now. And I know that Texas is hoping to get out early, allow that depth to be felt early on and last throughout the entirety of that game, and just kind of pull away from there as a result, right? Keeping those legs fresh, keeping that talent rotating in and out throughout the entire game, in which they're hoping and right now kind of game planning that Colorado State won't have the juice to stay up in that 100-degree weather come the third period, going into the fourth when they're down 2 or 3 scores. Do they have enough in them to keep that game close? Right now, I think that's kind of the blueprint right now for Texas is keep those legs fresh, keep those bodies incoming and in and out of rotations as often as possible, because you have the talent 1 through 3 at a number of positions right now to play at a level certainly that you expect to win against a team like Colorado State right now.
Yeah, Coach, Sark said last year at Rice, they played 32 to 33 players on defense just in the first half alone. He's basically, essentially he's guaranteed everybody who's on the 2 deep will play early, basically, especially on defense. They're going to play early. And he even said basically the 3 deep, they should be prepared situationally depending on their the depth at that position to play too. So Sark essentially is saying everybody's going to play in this game if he's got anything to say about it, which means you got to have a comfortable lead to be able to, to follow through on that, right, Coach?
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. And I think that, you got to understand that the quarterback coach there and one of the offensive minds that's behind what they're doing is Matt Mumme, the son of one of the co-founders of the air raid was Hal Mumme. Mm-hmm. And I guess, they were at Valdosta State and some other places. And, of course, he was the head coach at Kentucky. And so they're all gas, no brakes. It's going to be interesting to see how they respond, as we talked about in the heat. Don't think they're going to come in here and roll over when that thermometer reads 100. They won't. Maryland didn't come in here and roll over when it said 100. They kept kicking our butts back a few years ago. So, it with an explosive offense, one that's going to throw it a lot, our DBs are going to be tested first game out of the chute. We will be tested, and it'll be a good gauge to see what work we've been able to get done with our pass defense over the past few months.
I agree with you, Coach. And I always try to kind of put myself in the opponent's shoes. I'm game planning. And if I'm Colorado State and I'm looking at what chance I got to just keep this game close for as long as I can, I got to shock Texas, and I got to shock them early. If I'm them, I would throw it. I throw it deep early. That's a tendency breaker, by the way, because they're not a great deep ball team. They're not. You look at Pro Football Focus, their deep passing grade, passes 20 yards or more, 105th in the country. Even their elite wide receiver, they got an NFL wide receiver, a guy that can play on Texas right now, Torrey Horton. He's a stud. We'll talk about him all week long. On deep passes, he's converted 5 of 27. He did have one drop that probably could have been a touchdown pass, but 5 of 27 on deep balls. He's not very good at most of his damage is done. The short game, passes between 0 to 10 yards, and then maybe in that intermediate range, but he's not doing a lot of his damage deep. I think if I was them, I'd throw it deep on Texas based on what I saw in the spring game, based on what I saw in the Washington game, based on what I saw in the Oklahoma State game, based on what I've seen from Texas the last few times they've been out there. I think Colorado State's going to try to chunk it deep, whether it's a PI or whether they just get lucky. If they get a one-on-one, they're going to try to throw it deep. Whoever's that middle field safety, because I think we're going to play a lot more single high safeties because of the Johnny Nansen influence, they better be ready to give some help, some support on some of those deep balls. I think Colorado State's going to try to throw it early. To me, that's one of their only shots against Texas. If you're just looking at weakness versus strength.
Prove to me that you can stop it, right? Yep. It's one of those things. I mean, I hate going back to Michigan a year ago, but when they played Penn State and they had, 26 or 27 consecutive runs, run it until someone proves that they can stop it. It should be kind of one of those big game plans against Texas this year to come out there and throw the ball down the field until Texas is able to prove that that's no longer a viable option to move the ball against them, right? It's one of those big things that when you have that kind of Achilles heel, you got to put some armor on it at some point, right? Otherwise, you're going to continue to lose and go down because of it. Right now for Texas, I know that they've increased the athleticism. Communications continue to be a strong point with this unit, but until we see balls on the ground or balls getting picked off, I mean, it's one of those things in which you kind of have to err on the side of, I need you to show that you can stop the deep pass before teams try other ways to move the ball and score points against you. I do like this Colorado State matchup to begin the year. I know maybe you would have preferred a team similar to a Michigan, one that ground and pounds a little bit, but the glaring weakness a year ago for Texas was that secondary. They're going to get tested early. Colorado State 42.5 passing attempts a year ago, 5th most in all of college football. But Braden Fowler Nicolosi, 16th most passing yards in all of college football, a team that didn't go to a bowl game either at 5-7. So those numbers could have been increased.
Yep.
But the point is, they're going to throw the ball and they're going to give you interesting and unique concepts to defend against, which will then bode well against teams like Mississippi State, Oklahoma, and some of these, air raid teams that Texas will face later on in the year as well.
Yeah, no, so I totally agree with you, Coach. I think that's where the game plan for Colorado State is going to start. I think they'll try to throw uncharacteristically of their offense, deep shots early, but they do damage with, the short intermediate game because it is the air raid or air raid-ish. And I wrote down in my notes, their passing game is built on quick game and slant throws. And Texas emphasized tackling. We've heard a lot of guys talk about it. Michael Taft talked about it. We've heard Jahdae Barron talk about it. That's been a priority in practice that, hey, if we can, stop these guys initially when they catch the football, and they go down, no yak yards, no rack yards for them. That's where a lot of their big plays and a lot of the, third and longs that they allowed, they said it was because of yak yards after the catch. They're trying to work on that. That'll be tested in this game as well, especially with Torrey Horton. 575 yards of his over 1,100 yards receiving were on passes of under 10 yards. 10 yards or under. So in terms of that's the short, quick throws, he does really great on the slant throws, and he's at 575 yak yards, 11th most in college football. So tackling in the open field is going to be big, especially against this guy. I can't wait to see the game plan for Texas. They don't have many weapons, but that is one of the ones they're going to be trying to force feed the football to, Coach. What do you do when the team just has one guy? Hell, man, honestly, Jordan was like that when it was him and Colt. It was kind of a two-man offense for the most part. I'm not saying anything against the other guys, but every game plan against them was to stop those two and stop that connection. And they were successful in thwarting all of those game plans. What do you do, Coach, defensively? What do you do when you got just one guy that you're just trying to take them away and you're trying to force them to beat you with somebody else? Because that's what Texas is going to be trying to do in this game.
Yeah, I kind of look for us just to stay base to start off the game and just see if we can handle them or not. Okay. I don't think they're gonna sound off an alarm before the game and say, okay, we need help over the top. Let's see what we can do. See if we can get pressure on the quarterback. Let's see what we can do without tipping our hand. To rolling coverage to help. I do think Colorado State will be very wise in when they take their shots because that can blow up in their face really quick. You look up and you've taken 30 seconds on the clock off the clock, mm-hmm. and now you've got Texas offense back out on the field again, and the game can get away from you in a hurry if they're passing it a lot and they're not successful and they're not running any time off the clock. It could really blow up and get out of hand really fast. And so I think you'll see them take some shots, but I don't think they're going to go crazy because they, as you were talking a while ago, they want to try to stay in the game as long as they can, and they can't do it with their offense on the sidelines.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. It's going to be – I can't wait to see the game plan. That'll be interesting, Coach. They decide to just play it straight up at first. Our guys can beat your guys. And then there'll be some opportunities potentially for Colorado State to get what they want, which is a one-on-one. They get that against Texas. Maybe they think they got a shot to win. I would see how they try to run the ball. I think if they try to run the ball, they're going to try to do it in the interior. That's where all of their experience is too. So we'll talk about that. As a matter of fact, we got somebody coming up who can talk about interior line play because we got lifetime Longhorn Stevie Lee coming up, joining us, and we appreciate him every time. Courtesy of our good friends at Hardgrove Roofing. This segment brought to you by Hardgrove Roofing. And thanks to them for sponsoring the winning drive with offices all over Texas, Louisiana, and Arkansas. Hardgrove is the choice of customers everywhere for superior, reliable service. If you're in need of a new roof, you'll want to know who's on your roof. It's Hardgrove Roofing. Know who's on your roof. You see it right there, hardgroveroofing.com, 512-645-3202. And now we have my man, lifetime Longhorn Stevie Lee. Stevie, thanks for joining us on Mondays, as you always do, around 3:30, 3:40. So we appreciate that so the folks can set their calendar and set their schedule. How was your weekend, first and foremost? And how excited are you about game week?
Man, hey, how y'all doing, fellas?
Doing great.
I'm really excited, man. It's here, bro. Like, I woke up on Saturday morning and watched the game over in Dublin, Ireland. Don't know why we're doing it. Are we expanding college football across the pond? I don't know, but it was fun to watch. There was a beautiful stadium, and it was a great game, guys. And now, Florida State can stop whining. So, but no, it was fun, man. So college football is back. It's here. I'm so happy, man, and I can't wait for Saturday, bro.
Now I know you always take part in the festivities. Are you going to the game? You and the family going to the game?
So it's up in the air right now, man. I hate to say it. I got two daughters, older teenage daughters, and one has a volleyball tournament up in Academy, Texas. That's southeast of Waco. And I'm trying to get the schedule to that. It's a tournament, so we don't know where the tournament lands until we play the first 2 days. So, and then the younger one, she has her first quinceañera to go to for a friend of hers. And I looked at that schedule. That thing is all day, man. Those dudes are going to party. Like, do I want to go to the stadium or I want to go to the quince?
That's a party, man. That's a party.
It's a party, man. I was like, man, y'all getting down, man. And it said, like, my daughter's, it's a quince, so the young lady is 15.
Yeah.
My daughter is not 15. Well, no, yeah, she's not 15 yet. She's almost 15. And the party says it's over at 1 a.m.
Oh, whoa. 1 a.m.
The lights come on and
you're not going to be well that night till about 2.
Man, that means the parents got to hang out till 1 a.m. too then. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man.
Dude. So, I mean, do the parents have a bar there or something? Like, what's going on? That's
They
wild.
should, right?
Yeah. All right.
So I don't. The long story to say, all that I don't know if I'm gonna make the game. So just look out. My tickets might be up for sale.
Man, there you go. Boom. There you go. See, Stevie Lee always looking out for the people. Okay, I got a question. I know the other guys got some stuff for you, but here's my first question. We were just talking about the matchup between Colorado State and the Longhorns. And one of the things I think is most compelling is that Colorado State actually, their pass protection is pretty good. Last year, they only allowed 14 sacks, but it's more about the system, getting the ball out quickly, than it is about the offensive linemen themselves. They're good players, but I think it's more a combination of the two. When you're going up against a system like that, which I know you know very well because you went up against a lot of air raid systems in your time here playing in the Big 12, and this is an air raid-ish system, as Coach pointed out. They got a mummy on the staff, so he's actually a son of hell mummy, one of the founders of the air raid. What does the defensive lineman do? What's the strategy? What's the tactics when you know the ball is going to be out probably quicker than you are able to get home and get in the backfield?
So, man, the number one thing is ball get off. BGO is what we called it. Ball get off. And so I hear you with their protection and things like that, but, man, and I heard you guys talking about them going deep. I just – this defensive line with the edge rushers, man, I don't know if they have enough time to do that. So that's what I'm praying for, right? So, but when, you get settled in the game, you see that you're not getting enough push, man. The main thing is get your hands up. Get your hands up and bat down some balls, man. And but continue to try to get push back there. Don't give up on the pass rush and trying to get your hands up. Get your hands up at the last possible second, man. And then throwing some schemes in there, even with your outside linebackers, man. Just even if you just want to do a scheme on the backside, or on the front side. So you don't have to do a full on all five front schemes. But it also depends on how our DBs are doing, where we may have to go into a dime. I don't know. So it's going to be exciting to see. I think if you're going to ask me, I think we can get pushed with our front four. I think, right? So I think that running some eds and techs and things like that will be perfectly fine.
Stevie, I know it's been a minute since you were rolling around the 40 acres, but the heat hasn't changed in Austin. And with week 1 coming up, can you talk about just kind of that importance and the emphasis of, staying and conditioned for that defensive line group? I know Texas will be rotating a lot of bodies, but to be fresh against a team that likes to throw the football feels like it's going to be a big, importance this weekend for the Longhorns. What's that like for the big boys up front?
Man, early football season in Austin, Texas it's just hot, man. It's just gonna be hot. And but these guys been practicing in all camp. But there is a such thing as game speed. So you're absolutely correct. We can roll some guys in there and get some fresher bodies. Now, Colorado is going to be playing in that same weather as well, right? So who's more adaptive to it, right? So we've been practicing in it. I went out to practice at it was like, I think it started at 9:45. Bro, I was standing on the sideline. I was ready to go home. So it's going to be hot on that field. And so Colorado State, I know you can, Jay Norvell he's doing a great job of he wears a work shirt to practice. I saw this. It's like a work mechanic shirt, button down with the name tag on it and everything. And I like that. They're going to work every day. But they're going to work in Colorado. It's beautiful, crisp air. It's cool up there. It's 80 degrees. Really, if you take a guy from Austin and go up there where they're practicing, it's going to feel like 70 degrees. But and yes, they have thin air, so their lungs are going to be there, but it's just the heat. The heat's just going to sit on you, and those guys will not be ready for that. That is a big advantage that we carry every year.
Stevie, I got a question for you along the same lines as what CJ was talking about. Can coaching staffs or can a player really duplicate game intensity, getting you in game shape. I mean, do you just pretty much expect there's going to be a certain amount of playing my way into shape?
Absolutely.
Where do you think that? And your first game, you're going to be hyped up anyway, and all that stuff. Is it something that should concern us with our guys maybe being too jacked up, or maybe being patient with them having to play themselves into shape, because it's really hard to duplicate a game sequence in a practice setting where you truly don't have time to catch your breath.
So when we played, man, we did a really good job of being conditioned and just conditioning, right? We knew it was going to be hot, but you're exactly right. There's going to be an element of playing your way into game shape. You cannot replicate a game. You know how your adrenaline is just pumping. And that video before you run out of the field, you can't replicate that in practice, man. So, the video, the smoke coming out of the horns, the crowd and everything, you can't replicate that. And so, the veterans do a better job of getting their emotions in check, so we can actually run out and actually, check out a little bit and get our mind back right into game setting. But your adrenaline is still pumping, and you have to manage that. But that comes with being on the field and managing the game and getting game shape real time. But that's not to say that you don't have to do conditioning in the beginning, because it's like 50-50. You got to do both. I hope that answers your question, Coach.
Sure.
No, it's we got a super chat here, and I think MP Houston wants Stevie's thoughts on this super chat. Thank you very much, MP Houston. We appreciate the support. It says Stevie, Rod, and Coach. And I'll throw my man CJ in there too, but I'll throw this to Stevie first since he's with us just for a short time. Do you expect a vanilla game plan for us this week, much like the Rice game last year? And you know what? I would say on both sides. Do you expect a vanilla game plan, offensively or defensively, for Texas in this?
First of all, MP Houston always come in with all the great questions, and from now on, I'm going to call him that guy. He's that guy. He's that guy, and I can tell y'all later why I call him that guy. But anyway, he's that guy. That's my guy. But yes, I expect a straight up vanilla game plan. I expect, honestly, man, you don't want to put too much on film for that next week. You guys understand what I'm saying, Coach? But the most important game is the first game. The next game is the most important game, right? So I believe that you will want to play this game with vanilla base defense and base offense, and that's actually a challenge for your players too. Your coach is going to tell you, we're going to run this, and that, and you go out there and hand a decisive win with your base defense and your base offense. That's going to catapult your confidence all the way throughout the season as well. So I believe it's going to be base. I hope it's base.
Yeah.
No,
that's a good point. And Coach, this is something I've thought about too, though, because they're going to go back and there's continuity. The good thing is for the Sark's staff, there's continuity. You've got the same DC, same, play caller in Sark, same special teams coordinator in Jeff Banks. So when you go back and watch film, the prep, you can go back 2023, 22, and 21 to learn about the schemes and the tendencies and things that Sark likes and the characteristics and the different conceptual signatures of the offense. So to me, I always think you can also go the other direction. Considering, Coach, they only got so much time to prepare. You only got so much time to prepare. So as a coach, you got to be real selective in what you're going to spend your time on in different periods. I would say don't show them anything new, but you can still show them what you have already shown them, what you have already, shown as an offense in 21, 22, and 23. In my opinion, give them stuff that they got to give them lots of stuff they got to work on, almost make them prepare for ghosts. They don't know how I'm going to attack them, but they start preparing for all kinds. Because if you see it, Coach, it's almost irresponsible not to prepare for it, right?
Yeah, that's always been my my MO is throwing some stuff out there, especially early in the season that you don't plan to use it.
Yeah.
You may see us in 4 bunch squads lined up, maybe in a cubby like quail, or maybe in a straight line, or maybe dancing. You don't know what, but you got no plans to do anything with it. But they got to think, okay, now what all can they do out of this?
Yes.
And they literally have to take the time to think what you can do out of that, and then how are they going to adjust to it? And all you've done is they're just chasing the rabbit down the trail. You know, the real hunting's over here. But they're going to waste some hours and some practice time chasing stuff that you have no plan on doing. You know,
that's
Coach Broad's heart tomorrow this weekend when we see 10 personnel with 4 wide receivers out on the field. That's the rabbit. We're not going to see that ever again.
No, that's true. That's a good point. See, I'd be upset.
That's Coach Ship playing chess and everybody else playing checkers, man.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's right.
That's that Sun Tzu Art of War stuff Coach talking about there, man. That's what I like. All right, Steve, we won't keep you too much longer. I just got to ask you this because you were talking about the emotion of trying to corral that emotion. Sark even talked about it, and he broke out the old coachism. You know, you want to play with emotion, but not play emotional. Mm-hmm. Do you? Yeah, right. And I remember this, and this is crazy. I remember almost being on the verge of tears going out for big games sometimes, and not because I was sad or anything, but I had so much emotion that had overwhelmed my body, basically, that I needed an outlet. Now I know why women just, they watch movies just go cry somewhere, right? Just too much. But I remember being that emotionally pumped. Do you remember when you were able to regulate it as a player? Because in high school, I don't know if I played in games big. In high school, I don't know if I played in games big enough to have that kind of emotional charge. But when I played, once I figured out what Texas OU was about, and we played in Texas OU or the Texas A&M game, or a Big 12 title game. When Matt Brown came to us and told us when we were about to play that Big 12 title game against Colorado, by the way, that if we won that game, we was going to play in the national title, Coach, I tell you, I was damn near in tears thinking, this is it. This is what I always wanted. I'm about to go play the game of my freaking life because this was it. I'm on the verge of achieving my ultimate dreams of playing in a national title game. Now, we'd have played against Miami, I believe, so who knows how that had gone. But my point is, do you remember and I remember now being able to regulate it and being able to use that charge to lift my play to another level, as opposed to being a young player where I remember we were blown out by Oklahoma. We were overwhelmed by the emotion of that game. Yeah. Do you remember when you were able to do it?
Man, I never told anybody this. So y'all please be my therapist right now.
Preach, brother, preach.
But in high school, my senior year, I didn't commit to any school until right before my championship game in December. And then I was going to be on somebody's campus in January. So I was really going through that recruiting process. So I was scared of getting hurt and everybody pulling their offers and all this stuff. So before every single game, and then this happened also before I reveal what happened. This also happened in college whenever I got my first start, big games that I was deep in the game plan. That game against LSU playing Nick Saban.
Yeah.
I started that game in the Cotton Bowl. And so after every big game in college and every game my senior year in high school, because it was so important to me, I needed to get out of Shreveport and go to college somewhere. I threw up every game. My emotions were so high. You know how you get you ready to go out and you're pumped and then you get the mouth sweats.
Yeah.
I threw up every single game in high school, and then the big games that I was really big a part of in college. And so y'all, I never told anyone that. So
no, man, I get you. It's the adrenaline and the emotion.
Yeah, but after that, I was ready to go kick some ass.
I don't know what your wife thought on that honeymoon when you're in there hugging that toilet.
Yeah.
That was a big night too, huh?
That's big night. That's man. He was tore up.
Yeah.
No, it always happens to me, honey. It always happens.
Yeah, and then what happened afterwards? I went and go kick some ass.
Well done. That's a great comeback. See, if wifey saw this, you'd be in trouble, but I don't think she's on.
I'm gonna hear about it later. Don't worry about it.
Well done. Yeah, she'll get a text from somebody later, but that's how you come back on it.
Yeah, and mainly that guy. He'll text her.
Yeah. No, man, Stevie, that was awesome, brother. And thank you for sharing. Hey, trust me, I share more now than I've ever have because it's the way it is on this channel. When you're talking for this long, you got to share with the people. They appreciate it, man. They appreciate it. Appreciate you. And I didn't realize that was your first. I didn't realize you started that LSU game against. That
wasn't my first start, but yes, I started that LSU game, man.
Yeah,
and it was really important to me because a lot of guys that I played with at Evangel was playing at LSU, and a lot of guys I played against, because we went deep in the playoff. We won state every year. So a lot of guys I played against in the playoffs were on that team as well. Yeah. So that whole bowl week was big because I was running into old guys and from the all-state team, and we would be hanging out and things like that. And then you know, the whole thing about Nick Saban said when he got the job, the first thing he did was call Stevie and Phillip. And but we had already committed to Texas. Nice. We're like, thank you, but no thanks, you know. So and you know, the big bag Saban, you know, I kicked Saban's ass, so I was never scared of him, you know what I'm saying?
Hey, hey, you know what, Stevie? No, that makes sense. And I say this all the time. When I went to go visit Mac and the team before that 2010 Rose Bowl, whatever, when they were about to play Alabama, Nick Saban's first championship at Alabama, he was as cocky and as arrogant as I've ever seen Mac. I was for sure Texas was going to win that game because just Mac, he had this confidence about him, this aura about him, and just what you said made sense. He had already whipped Nick Saban. He had already beat Nick Saban. That 0-2, I'm telling you, dude. They won the national title the next year, guys.
They did.
That team was loaded, and they had a great coach, Jimbo Fisher, Will Muschamp on that staff. Nick Saban. That was a loaded staff, and man, we came out there and put it on them. That was a hell of a win. That was.
And I said that I kicked Nick Saban's ass. It was actually Roy Williams because he was catching everything.
Yeah, he did. I remember that too. That set the tone right there, man. That set the tone. Man. Yeah. Hey, Stevie, man, it's always fun when you come on the show. Appreciate you, brother, and can't wait to talk to you next week.
All right, guys. Hook 'em.
See you, Stevie.
That is the Stevie Lee. We appreciate him coming on Lifetime Longhorn. And thank you very much to our friends over at Hargrove Roofing for sponsoring the winning drive with offices all over Texas, Louisiana, and Arkansas. Hargrove is the choice of customers everywhere for superior, reliable service. If you're in need of a new roof, you'll want to know who's on your roof. It's Hargrove Roofing. Know who's on your roof. That's hargroveroofing.com, 512-645-3202. Thank you very much to my man Stevie Lee. He's always fun. How about that one? Had to throw up before every game. I didn't know that either. I didn't know what Stevie was doing back there. Now I know. Years later, Coach. All right, let's get to some of the questions, and we'll get back to breaking down. I want to get you guys' thoughts about Sark's comments. He was asked about red zone again. He was actually asked about third down offense again. I want to get you guys' thoughts about what he had to say. But let's get to some of the questions first. CB, love my man CB. Appreciate you. Chris Bennett says, any Edith Royal stories, Rod and Coach Shipley? Yes, we'd be remiss if we did not mention that it was announced today that Edith Royal passed away. It was reported, I believe, by Brian Davis. I saw him report it first. Said the word comes that Edith Royal, the widow of Texas coach Darrell Royal, passed away this morning. She was 98 years old. Mrs. Royal was so kind to him and everyone else. And Sark admitted that when he got the Texas job, that she sent him a personal video that he still holds dear and has saved as well. Coach, I'll throw it to you because you've been around a lot longer than us, and your circle's a lot wider. Did you have any experience with Coach Royal or his lovely wife?
Well, no, nothing earth-shattering, you know, just being very delightful. She's a quiet person, you know. She didn't want to be in the limelight and wasn't in the limelight, you know. And, of course, back then, it's probably a good thing there wasn't the social media that there is now, because who knows what Coach and Willie Nelson were out doing. I don't know. But they're just great ambassadors, and it's the end of an incredible era that the first lady of coaches, you know, for the great University of Texas has passed away. So it's a sad day because she was class, that's for sure.
Yeah, Rod, I did want to share what Sarkisian said about Edith and Coach Royal, is basically we're hoping to go out there and put together a team that plays in which would make them proud. And I thought that was something that was very kind, obviously hinting at, how important they were to the program, to the university, and this, the University of Texas football in general, right? So Sark did say that about the video as well from Edith, and in which he says he still watches, and he rewatched again today in honor of her, obviously. So Texas football lost a good one, obviously.
Yep.
Edith was a great representative of this university, and of course, going out to play on Saturday, I'm sure the university will have some sort of way to commemorate her and her contributions to Texas football.
Yep, I think you're right about that, CJ. Well said. All right, getting back to some more questions. Thank you, CB, for throwing that out there. Juan says, Coach, what's your prediction for this year? Are you also 11-1 like Rod and CJ? Yeah, Coach is a coach, so we'll see if Coach is usually not the overly optimistic one here. Oh, she's a realist. Coach is a realist.
Coach keeps us in check, Rod. This is us from the Kool-Aid machine, just
exactly.
Coach coming out to just smack it out of our hands. Said, no.
Yeah, I would like to say 11-1, but I'm gonna say 10-2, and I say that as a coach. I never. Every game's the toughest game of the year, and you're trying to tell your parents and you're trying to tell your spouse and, your kids, no, really, this team is good, Oh, Dad, you always say that. But, I'm, in the back of my mind, we're all hoping that second number is going to be 0, so somehow we're hoping that, but is that realistic? We'd have to overcome a lot of adversity. We'd have to stay very healthy and catch some really, really good breaks. But realistically, 10-2, and I won't be happy with that. But that's just that's the way it is at the University of Texas. You're expected to win, and that's the bar.
Yeah,
I feel like there's some losses that are going to be more palatable for Longhorn fans. And so the Georgia one, Longhorn fans are perfectly fine with that. As long as it's a close game, competitive, comes down to the wire. I think the Michigan game, because I'm still a little torn on the Michigan game. I mean, the Michigan defense is going to be tough. The big house playing up there is going to be loud. The running game needs to travel. What's the Texas running game looks like? That's one I'm pretty much kind of 50-50 on. And there's some that are going to be just hard to swallow, though. You lose to Oklahoma again, lose to A&M again. Not A&M again, but lose to A&M. That I think Longhorn fans might.
That's a whole different 10-2.
Yes, there you go. Exactly. Yes, there you go, Coach. That's the one glass half empty kind of 10-2.
That's a great point.
Right. So I think I'm with you, Coach. I think, Coach, you and Bobby, I believe, are 10-2. So the older, wiser, all right, analysts.
Jerry's at 10-2 as well, Rod. Remember, he had Texas losing to Georgia, got to the end of the season and said, "Oh shoot, I need to find another loss here." And what was available, the only game left, it was Texas A&M. So if you got a pitchfork and some gasoline and matches, go ahead and head on out to Jerry's comments, his mentions. He's the one that has that outcome going the Aggies' direction at the end of the year.
Oh, I forgot about that, CJ. Yeah, you're right. Oh, yeah.
Sorry to put him on blast again, but
yeah, he paid himself into a corner. He basically he made his prediction before he actually went through the schedule and did the analysis. Yeah, they lose to the Aggies. That's a tough year to lose to the Aggies, man. You can lose to them. Ain't no shame in that. Not this year, though.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's funny, right? I mean, he talked himself essentially into 11-1, but because he had already, been on record a few times with 10-2, he had to find a way to throw another loss in there.
Oh man,
that was the only game left. I do think. Coach, to your point, 100%. There's a level of 10-2, right? Do you lose to Michigan? Do you lose to Georgia versus losing to Oklahoma State and or Arkansas / A&M, right? That's a whole different looking 10-2 compared to who you might lose to in a given year. And that's just going to be the case moving forward, right? A lot of success for teams that aren't in that national championship contention or that hunt is basically, do you beat your biggest rivals, right? Texas Tech had a great season every single year that they ended up beating Texas, regardless if they made a bowl game or not, or what happened in that bowl game. That's just the matter of the fact. We heard what their Houston, Texas Tech, anybody, the Big 12 commissioner a year ago, the message was the same. Just beat Texas. We'll figure out everything else after that. Just beat Texas. So I know Texas doesn't see themselves as a school that has that kind of standard, or it might be above that, obviously, with their history and kind of pompousness. But at the same time, if you go out and you beat Oklahoma and you beat Texas A&M, okay, you can stomach a loss or two elsewhere along the way because you've beat your big rival. So I think Texas fans would be more than pleased with that, especially considering the talent this team has and kind of that broader window of slipping up somewhere along the way and still being able to have a chance at making the playoff come the end of the season.
Yeah, 10 wins in the SEC. I think you're in the playoff. I think you're in the SEC title game, but you got to see how everything falls. There are a couple of the teams that could shake that up in Alabama, but Ole Miss, some teams like that. Hey, CB, I did not see your question for Stevie Lee. I'll ask him next Monday. That's a good question, so we got to bring that back. CB, please bring that one back. Appreciate you. How about this one? This is a recruiting question from Tyler for you, CJ. Should we take another safety in the 2025 class? Now they got Jonah Williams on board. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think so. Again, just looking at this roster right now and who might depart after 2024, you're going to need to replenish that room pretty well. They've done a great job getting top-end talent. Now it's about acquiring that depth, right? Yeah, you can expect guys like Andrew Makuba to move on, Michael Taft potentially heading out of here, Jahdae Barron. I know that we've talked about him at cornerback, nickel, and safety some as well. That's another body that could be a safety long-term in the NFL, but won't be on this roster moving forward after this season. You're going to have to find ways to get that room and maintain that room at a great level of play, which they have a number of guys, right? Xavier Phil-Sami, Jordan Johnson-Rubel, two youngsters that are really promising long-term. Question is, what's behind them, right? Jonah Williams is a huge win for Texas, but you got to pair him up with another guy that can play alongside him long-term, and doing so would mean going out and adding someone else in this 2025 class, in my eyes, at the safety spot.
Yeah, no, Jonah Williams is really impressive, man. That's, like I said, I can't imagine there's two better safeties in the country because his film is just that good. All right, getting back to the questions here. How about this one? This is for you, Coach. It says from the Green Lantern, Coach, you are the only one who on the panel who can answer this. Whatever happened to the Starburst kickoff return in high school? Rule changes? In the 80s and 90s, they were everywhere in the UIL. You know,
I used to run it too.
You ran it too? What happened to it?
Well, starburst return is when you've got a guy like maybe on the 15-yard line, 10, 15-yard line, and if somebody deep catches it, they come by and hand it off to him. Then everybody else kind of delays, and they just kind of run around him, and he'll fake and then give it. You'll have like five guys that have run past him, and only one of them has a ball. He has his back to the defense or to the kickoff team. So it's a very tough thing for a guy like that to sit there with his back to the kickoff team running down there 100 miles an hour, and he's trying to dish off the ball before he gets hit right in the back, Okay. Yeah. So one of the problems with it is it was considered a forward handoff. When somebody deeper than that guy caught it and they ran by him, they handed it kind of forward. And so some of the refs were a little bit picky on that and wouldn't let you do that. So those teams that like to just pop it up, and kick it maybe to the 15 or 20 maybe. We also would do a covey called a cover return, and we get about 6 guys all come in a covey all around, and nobody's going to know who has the ball. Then you just break out and guys just run every direction. It takes a while for everybody to catch on to who actually has the ball.
I like that.
Is that Starburst return? Is that what Denton Ryan did a few years ago in the state championship?
So. Yes, I think so. Yeah.
It was a heck of a return for anybody that didn't see it. I believe it was Billy Bowman was on the field then. So was Jatavian Sanders up front on kickoff return. Pretty talented team right there. Obviously, they did it in the state championship. If you have not seen that, I think to this day, one of the most unique and well-executed returns I've ever seen in any level of football for a kickoff.
I got to go check it out. I don't think I can recall it, so I got to go check that out. It's pretty cool. Good stuff there. My man, how about this one from AJJ? He says, yo, CJ, could you go over he calling you out, CJ. So, yo, CJ, could you go over and explain again your season predictions for Jonte and DeAndre Moore again? He said, I feel
real quick.
Here we go.
Oh, wait. Here we go.
Here we go. Let me see this.
See, he hands it off.
Sanders, number 14. Yep. Where's the ball?
That was pretty. Damn.
Here comes Billy Bowman right out front. Wow. 14 ended up at Alabama, transferred to Arkansas, now on the Panthers. So he ended up doing pretty well. That was a 5-star Drew Sanders out of Denton Ryan. Out front, That's Billy Bowman with the block. They got another lead blocker. I mean, that was it's beautiful, Coach. It's beautiful.
See, he didn't hand that one off forward. That's why that was legal, because he came in and handed it behind him.
Okay.
Guy who ideally, if that guy that's handing it off can catch it, that's the best way to do it. But
that is immaculate execution, though. I mean, it's almost perfect execution of that play.
I see the risk, though. If you don't get that handoff right, or if you miss a block, you're tackled within the 15, right? Look at where the handoff originally. It's on the 8-yard line. Fumble handoff, you're cooked.
Wow.
Yeah. But when it works, you're a genius.
You can see how all the guys doing black, you can see the 2 second or the second that they all stop to process it. Like, hold up, what's going on? And literally that's all you need right there. They all kind of stop like, what's going on? And then you get a guy going full speed, taking that handoff, and that's all she wrote. That's a beautiful play. Well done. Yeah.
Thank you, Matthew.
Good stuff there, Matthew. Matthew working hard, man. Quick, fast. Like that. It's football season. Even Matthew at top of his game. It's game week. Everybody at the top of their game in game week, man. That's how it goes. How about this one from AJJ? He's calling you out, CJ. He wants to know something. Yo, CJ, could you go over or explain again your season predictions for Jonte and DeAndre Moore? I feel like those predictions might be a little low.
Yeah, I mean, they could be. Matthew, if you have a chance to throw up that article, just the wide receiver part on Texas football, I put a lot of brain power into this one. Maybe not a whole lot of great results will come out of this. That's typically how some of these big brain predictions go for me. But no, last night I went through all the statistical predictions for everybody on the offensive side of the ball. Quarterbacks, what was Quinn going to throw for? Running backs, what are they going to rush for? How many touchdowns? How many receptions? And then the receivers. And this is essentially what I came up with. I think Isaiah Bond's going to be your number one. I think Silas Bolden and Ryan Wingo's volume is going to grow tremendously in the back half of the season, I think. Matthew Golden's going to be a consistent piece as well. You see that he's, yards per catch, maybe not as high as some of the other pieces on this roster right now. But Jonte Cook and DeAndre Moore, very similar, about 20, 22 targets, 15 receptions a pop. My thing with them, and I think that Sarkisian's going to rely on this a little bit more, kind of with the exception of a Ryan Wingo, is what does that experience and production previously mean for you, right? That's kind of one of the big things that we've seen for him. He went out immediately and got a guy like Tariq Milton a few years ago, who maybe isn't the best athlete, maybe not someone that would play on today's roster, but because he's had, an 800-yard season at Iowa State before, he threw on the field immediately and said, yeah, we've got to have a guy like this because he's been there and done that. I think that's going to mean something this year, and I think that's why I'm potentially probably a little bit lower on a guy like Jonte Cook or DeAndre Moore, simply because they haven't, right? There's only 8 career receptions between the two of them, and they all come from Jonte last year. So I know that they've had that extra year in the system. I know that they've thrown and caught and been around Quinn Ewers more so than everybody else on this roster, but that production and experience on a big stage, like catching the 4th and 31 pass against Auburn to beat your biggest rival, that has to mean something. Silas Bolden a year ago, 70 receptions. Matthew Golden, 50 receptions, 900 yards, over 1,000 yards over his first 2 years playing college football. I think that means something, and I think you see that kind of trickle into the start of the season. So that's kind of where I see some of these, stats coming in. I do think Isaiah Bond and Ryan Wingo by the end of the season are your red zone guys. Kind of that quickness. I think Silas Bolden plays into that as well. Maybe not with the true volume numbers in the red zone, but I don't know. I tried to explain that as best I could on the site last night as well. But it was a fun little workshop to go in there and get the brain juices flowing a little bit. Season's here, so might as well go on record with something outrageous and see if I catch lightning in a bottle with something up here.
No, what I think is interesting. No, I like the breakdown here, man. It's a nice exercise, nice thought experiment, if you will. But I heard what Sark said today when he was asked about the wide receivers, and Coach, I thought it was a great kind of way to describe it because I got the visual. Sark said, there are certain guys, he was talking about Devontae Smith, the ball just finds them, like the ball finds them. And he said there are other guys where I have to scheme certain concepts to scheme them open. I got to scheme open eyes. The other guys, the ball kind of finds them. This is kind of what your exercise is describing, CJ, that there will be a separation. And it seemed like Sark was implying that it's going to happen naturally, Coach, that, hey, whoever the ball ends up finding them the most, whether that's chemistry with Quinn or your ability to separate and get open, or, you to make big plays in critical moments like third down or red zone, that this is going to happen more naturally. And that I don't know if he's going to be necessarily scheming, force feeding the football to anybody early on. And maybe early on, just kind of seeing who separates naturally.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. And I think that's very wise. And I get what he's saying. And I think you guys probably get it too. There's some people who just, the ball finds them. That's just a great way to put it. And there's other guys, like you said, you have to scheme to get open, but maybe that's because it's of the position where you have them playing. It could be because of the coverage that they're seeing. Mm-hmm. But he will scheme to get guys open because he wants to show parity throughout the receiving core. He wants to show that you can't shut down one guy. You're going to have to cover the whole field. And so some of that will happen organically. Some of it, he will have to call plays to get them open, scheme to get them open, to get the ball, so that we might be able to guess what some of those plays are going to be when they happen. But the best thing for the whole team is when everything is evenly distributed, and then when you have to have that big play as the season goes on, as you were talking about, Rod, the cream will rise to the top, and those guys will. And you good and well, Quinn already knows, you're throwing hundreds of passes every day. He pretty much knows, but you got to do it on the field too. You got to do it under the lights with the crowd noise and the pressure that they'll be feeling.
Yeah. Yeah. Cisco Diaz tweeted out or commented, that's 3893 total passing yards for Quinn. I had Quinn a little bit lower. I think Quinn was about 3460 in my prediction. Of course, I added in Trey Owens and Arch Manning getting about 50 pass attempts as well during this. So I think Quinn this was only over the regular season 12 games. Here it is for Quinn, 3489, 33 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. Listen, it's not too far off with the exception of the touchdowns from a year ago, right? Quinn played 12 games, give or take a few quarters due to injury. We saw the 69% completion percentage, only 22 touchdowns, but the yards per attempt, the yards per game, very similar. I think I actually had him about 2 yards over where he was a year ago in the yards per game category. So not too far off from a year ago. If you see that from Quinn and you still get a running game that is very similar, which could be a tall task, right? Given the running back situation, but the dynamic ability of Jaden Blue lends to a higher ceiling in my eyes. It'll be interesting. I do think that would be enough offensive firepower to give you a competent, nationally ready to compete offense in 2024.
All right, good stuff there. I like that. All right, before we move on, I know we're getting close to the end here, so I want to thank one of our fantastic sponsors, our good friends at Flat Creek Estate Winery. Did you know that the most awarded wine in Texas is actually vineyard closest to Austin? That's right, folks. Flat Creek Estate Winery is just minutes from downtown Austin, and they've won award after award this year for their vintage wine, Super Texan. Super Texan is now available at your local Specs, so you can give it a try. Also, it's available at your local Central Market here in Austin, because my wife does some shopping there, and she found it, and she was really happy because it's her favorite wine right now. That's Super Texan from Flat Creek Estate Winery. So a great selection there. The Pinot Grigio is really good. I like the Rosé. It's very refreshing. They have a really nice selection. You can go check it out for yourself at flatcreekestate.com. Of course, Flat Creek is also a gorgeous venue with barbecues and wine tastings every single weekend. It's perfect for a day date with your significant other or a weekend getaway with your significant other. That's Flat Creek Estate Winery, flatcreekestate.com. We appreciate them sponsoring the winning drive. All right, let's get back to a couple of the questions. Then I want to ask you guys about something Sark said about red zone offense and the improvement they hope to have in that area this season, I should say. Gino Valenzuela, thank you for the question. With this season using helmet communication, do you think we are using crowd noise to simulate what it may be like in upcoming games during these current practices? Coach, I'll throw that one to you. Being a coach yourself, is that something that the coaches are still doing? I remember when I played, Mac would do it for big games. Before the Texas A&M game, we do some of that. Before the maybe a big road game, he would do some of that. That's when we would do it. I don't know if we ever did it really for the home games, but we never had headset communication to get used to either. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that there's no doubt that you need to have some crowd noise because, if you're watching the game the other night with Georgia Tech and Florida State, the quarterbacks were having a hard time hearing, And so, I'm sure they've done simulated game situations just, and they've still got the signals if they need them. One of the things I was thinking during that game, would it be possible for the defensive, I don't know when they turn those things on, but if the defensive guy if he's a linebacker, if he can hear what the quarterback's telling everybody the play is, and if he could tell that to his defensive coordinator before it gets cut off. There's
I don't know.
Radio espionage?
You gotta have some real good.
It's open game. I mean, if he's calling it out and you hear what he's calling and you can get that to the coach on the sideline, then
is there I don't know if there's communication from the player back up to the booth unless you have some sort of hand signal.
You're right.
You're right. Sideline to say, hey, we got a slant.
That you may not be able to say. You may not be able to say, I can't hear you. Say it again. Thus, you see him doing this.
Yeah. Good point. Yeah, that's
why you may not be able to talk back to him.
I think that's why the coaches are going to continue to have the actual the sideline communication, not just the headset communication. Sark says they're going to have both because Sark anticipates issues, and then when you go on the road to Michigan, you got a big road game. Hell, who knows? I mean, even in the NFL, there have been coaches who have been accused of sabotage and some of that, basically kind of being a little shady when it comes to headset communications and some of the technical difficulties that happen on the road. So I think you just got to make sure you got a contingency plan for it. That's a good point, though, Coach. Maybe you can just take it back to the sideline if you can remember what it is and then kind of remember what the play is and then be like, hey, man, it seems like this means this, coach, or whatever it may be.
I don't know if college coaches do that, but I would want as much information as I could get because if they're calling it out loud, that's free game. I mean, and stealing signals, that's free game if they're doing it right in front of you. Now, as long as you're, not scouting them illegally, but
you heard that? Did you hear the? I think his name is Travis Williams, the Arkansas defensive coordinator, said, Coach, about stealing signals. You hear that sound? I'm going to send it to you. Oh man, he was very. You heard that, CJ? He was basically up front and was like, "Oh man,
it's a black market of sign stealing play sheets sitting around coaching staffs to coaching staffs to conferences. Everybody's got an in somewhere, and that's
there it is.
That's coming soon, I guess."
I ain't gonna lie. I think CJ can pull it off, man. I never thought you look eerily similar to Connor Stallions if you put on some shades and just taper the beard up a little bit, man. You do.
Hey, my Central Michigan shirt's coming in on Friday, so I'll give you guys a good breakdown next week of what I know about the Michigan Wolverine.
Oh, that'd be great if you go in the crowd and you dress as Connor Stallions in the crowd for the Michigan game. Kudos. You would definitely get on television if you did that, CJ.
Oh, there's no doubt you would.
Yeah, you just got your little play sheet and everything. Oh, that'd be great. That'd be fantastic. All right, before we get ready to end it here, Let's thank another one of our sponsors, our good friends over at South Point Dodge. We're really grateful that they are part of the On Texas football family, and they've decided to renew with us for the football season. So, Texas football fans, remember, you can score an easy extra point this season when you get to the point at South Point Dodge. South Point Dodge has over 600 vehicles in stock right now, including a great selection of Ram 1500s, 2500s, and 3500s. Whatever your truck needs, South Point Dodge is the one-stop shop. Also, remember, South Point Dodge is a great place for you to get great deals, because right now you can shop over 50 Ram 2500s, all marked down with huge savings right now at South Point Dodge. South Point Dodge always stocked with a great selection. You can go check it out for yourself over off I-35 in South Austin, or you can visit them online at southpointdodge.com. Get to the point at South Point Dodge, Austin's automotive everything, and your one-stop shop for all of your truck needs. Thank you very much to South Point Dodge for sponsoring the winning drive. All right, I got one more. Actually, I got a comment that I want to get you guys to start on just really quickly that Sark made. He was asked about red zone offense. And in Sark, we know that's been a huge topic of conversation, red zone touchdown percentage in the red zone, I should say. Here's what Sark had to say when he was asked about it. Quote, "We have to do a better job of not stubbing our own toe in the red zone with false starts, penalties, negative plays. Our efficiency rate in the red area is drastically improved when we just continue to move the ball forward. That's the first part that we've made a huge point of emphasis on, of having the right mental intensity when we get into those situations to really play clean football and execute what we're trying to get done." This is also something we got to watch in the Colorado State game. Red zone efficiency, coach, touchdown percentage in the red zone. Now, I expect him to be really vanilla too, especially when you get in the red zone. You don't want to show Michigan pretty much anything new that you brought to the table in the offseason since you've been working on this specific issue. So I think they'll stay pretty vanilla and do what they've done in the red zone. He's just saying they're going to try to do it better with more focus, with more intensity. But what are your thoughts, Coach? Sark saying there, pretty much they just have to not beat themselves in the red zone. That's a lot of it. Them being their own worst enemy in the red zone.
I think as a coach, he's kind of straddling, you got to be careful where you go on that, because you don't want to make it like an albatross around your neck. You don't want to make it bigger than it really is. And like somebody's got some kind of voodoo on you, you play it down, and you try not to overthink it as a coach, but you do try to get all your staff together and maybe your quarterbacks and in the off season and hopefully come up with a game plan. And obviously the first one is exactly what he mentioned. We got to have a tougher mindset, a more focused mindset when we go into the red zone. But I don't think I also like what he said. Just keep doing what we've done. I mean, you don't have as much field, so obviously your play calling is going to change a little bit. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see anything, especially once we get to Michigan, from Michigan on, and see how our red zone percentage is going to start trending this season.
Yeah, you're right. And Mac was big on that. Almost you don't want to speak it. You don't want to give it too much power. Whatever the negative thing is. That's why Mac was upset with me when I would make jokes, in a self-deprecating manner about my hands. Like, nobody catches the ball on my side of the field, not even me. And I thought it was a great line and funny. And Mac's like, "Hey, you're giving it too much power," basically. Like kind of what you said, Coach. Like you're speaking it to existence. You don't want to do that. You don't want to give it something negative too much power. And you're right about that. That's been a big topic of conversation in the offseason. Sark knows it's something that they got to work on. But yeah, you don't want the players nervous and anxious about it, and you don't want it to become, like you said, a negative thing like that, becoming more important and more, I would say, more of a priority than it needs to be. I agree with that, Coach. He
did that with the secondary after spring ball.
He did. Yes, he did.
He's like, we're all right. We're gonna be. I mean, he wasn't gonna shoot up a flare on that one either.
Great point, Coach. I agree with that, because even after the Washington game, when he was asked about, why do you think you lost the Washington game, he did not mention the secondary. And I was like, what? I was like, I think that's the reason. He was like, he brought the fumbles and not making enough plays and red zone. And I was like, wow. So I think you're right, Coach. I think he's kind of downplaying that too. It's like, don't give it too much power. Okay, we're getting close to the end, but here's Jay Shipley. Thank you, Jay, for the question here. We will make this one the last one of the day. Says, you guys are great. Keep the ball rolling. Got a great question for Coach. He says, I would like to know when you were at Rotan and did you get to meet Slinging Sammy Baugh? Wow.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Lots of great stories about Sam. We're running. We don't have a whole lot of time. One of them is he never went to anything that was honoring him. He would go honor somebody else, but he's not going if it was going to honor him. So they had the big Cotton Bowl induction ceremony one year, and he was inducted in the Hall of Fame. You know, all the greats, Joe Montana and Bo Jack, all the great people that have played, Roger Staubach. They all signed a football for him since he wasn't there. And so he drove an old Cadillac. So he pulled up to the gas station in Rotan, one of the two, I think. And when he got the ball, he just threw it in his back seat. Well, the guy working the gas station, he had a son, and he didn't speak a whole lot of English, but he was griping because he said, I got to get that boy a ball because he's going to drive me nuts. He doesn't have anything to do. And Sammy said, oh, wait, I got a ball. And he pulled out that autographed ball and threw it to the kid. Yeah, Sammy was a great one. I have a lot of Sammy Baugh stories, a lot of interesting things that maybe we can talk about, that he's the only person to ever lead the NFL in touchdowns as a quarterback in passing, in interceptions as a DB, and I still think he holds a career NFL punting average.
Wow.
Because back then they punted with more of it was a rounder ball, and he was a quarterback, and they were in the single wing shotgun. And so he said, I quick kicked a lot. And so when you quick kick a basketball, it's going to roll forever. Yeah. And so that counted as his yardage, you know?
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
That is fantastic. That's a great story, Coach. See, there you go. We got to end it on that. You always say you want to end on a high note. That is where we're going to end this show, folks, because that is a high note. Great story from Coach about slinging Sammy Baugh. Just gave the kid the football out of the bag. So do we know that the kid did they make sure that they cherished?
I don't know what happened. Man. That's one of the first stories I heard when I got to town. That Sammy, he don't want anything to do with him. He just give it to a kid to play with it.
I hope that kid did not play with that football. I hope that dad bought that kid another football and put that one aside so the family can, they can benefit later on, because that's worth a whole lot of money. Even today, it probably would be. Good stuff there, Coach. I want to thank Matthew behind the scenes, because Matthew's a real MVP, ladies and gentlemen. He's doing a great job. He's killing it these days. We appreciate him. How about that? There you go. Look at Matthew.
51.4.
Golly. That's a hell of a trivia question right there, man. With a 45.1 yards per punt. For those who listen to the podcast, you read it. Baugh's 51.4 punting average in 1940 remains an NFL record. Slinging Sammy Baugh has the NFL's second highest career punting average with 45.1 yards per punt. As a DB, Baugh set an NFL record with 4 interceptions in a game against Detroit on November 14, 1943. They don't make them like that anymore.
No, they sure don't.
They don't make them like that anymore. Coach, they don't make them like you anymore either, man. You're special. We appreciate you. CJ, thank you for everything you do, brother. All the nuggets and all the wisdom. We appreciate that. Thanks to all of our sponsors. Thank you to our good friends over at Flat Creek Estate Winery. Thank you to our good friends at South Point Dodge, and also to Hardgrove Roofing for sponsoring our segment with lifetime Longhorn Stevie Lee. Thank you to Stevie Lee for joining us. And thank you to all of you guys for the super chats, for all the questions, your participation. You have no idea how much it means to us. You helping us grow this Longhorn football community here at On Texas Football. Go check out ontexasfootball.com. And remember, tomorrow, join us for Coffee and Football. That'll be starting up at 8 a.m. And then we'll have your 7 p.m. live stream. Ooh, look at that. Boom. Hey, official schedule. I told y'all Matthew is working hard. It's football season. You tell the man it's up his game. He was already killing. Now he's on top of his game. We got the schedule for you. So at 3 p.m., you have the recruiting breakdown. You have the 7 p.m. live stream. So Coffee and Football 8:10, lunch with the coach at 11 a.m., and then recruiting breakdown at 3 p.m. and Longhorn live stream at 7. Thank you very much for that, Matthew. Thank you guys for joining us. Until next time, same channel, Hook 'em Horns.